Hi everyone, International Master Danny Rensch here from Chess.com, recording my round one game in the first ever USCF Rated tournament on Chess.com. The USCF recently launched online rated play on Chess.com for both Quick and Blitz, both Friday and Wednesday nights, so going to be a lot of fun. I sacrificed a piece out of the opening here, thinking I was in a certain line of theory in the classical French. This is what happens when you're a little bit rusty. Now I'm in a position where I'm surely completely lost. I'm down two pieces with little to no compensation to show for it. But the game is not over. I've also spent a little bit of time on the clock getting this recording set up. That's why you're joining me late, because initially it was not in our plans to record these, but I figure, hey, if I'm playing in the first tournament to make sure that all things go well on a technical side on behalf of the Chess.com team, I might as well record the games, talk about my thought process, see if we can get something educational and instructional out of this, and if not, at least we'll all be entertained in the sense that if I go down, who doesn't love watching a big car wreck, right? That's what you're going to see with Danny. Big car crash today. So seriously, I'm going to back up and review the line as we talk about this so I can see where I went wrong, and I do know some things about the structure and as far as the approach here, and that will be useful anyway, although I just completely forgot the line. So it's Friday today, March 20th, so TGIF, our first ever USCF on Chess.com tournament. You can follow the hashtag USCF on Chess.com, and that way you can check out more things about it if you're a USCF member finding out about this for the first time. That's right. Go ahead and join the party. All right, well, he brings the rook to d8. The real issue here is my lack of threats. So what I'm going to do is play sort of a practical restriction move right now with the move c4. My idea is that I'm not only taking away the square d5, but I'm actually trying to meet c5 by him with d5, keeping the bishop at bay. And if I have my way, I might even play d5 voluntarily, and after pawn takes, maybe fill this d4 square with the knight so that I can head into e6. Certainly bishop to c8 at any point, kicking my queen out is probably a good idea for him. Excuse me, and I don't exactly see the follow-through. So very frustrating. Let's back up and learn something from this game. So even if I lose the first game, maybe I'll be able to keep playing and hopefully make a comeback along with these games. But so start out with a French, and nothing to it. A classical French with d takes e4, and after bishop takes f6, g takes f6, knight f3. This is all theory. Bishop to b5 check, and then bishop to c4 is a kind of a common idea that induces this pawn to move forward because it closes the bishop on the diagonal. And normally white's going to play queen to e2, and in a lot of cases I'll be castling long after that, not too long after that. But there's a line that involves the sack I'm going to show you that I did here, which is I played bishop back to c4. Okay, he's moved. I'm going to play d5 pretty quickly here. I have to try to keep his pieces at bay here. It's my only chance. So I played queen to e2 here, which I'm already not sure is the right line if I'm thinking about the theory that I thought I had played right and apparently had not. So he attacks my queen. This is definitely the right idea, I think, to get the queen out of f5. Where to put the queen? Where to put the lady? On e4, he can bring the rook to e8, and I'm not sure there's a lot of future there. I need to try to induce some sort of blunder. I'm going to play queen back to d3. Maybe I can induce him to playing knight e5 or knight f4. If knight f4, I'll play queen c3. Maybe there's the potential for some tactics. If knight e5, I had a thought that I could take, queen g3 check, king moves, maybe take e5, try to open up the king's position. But again, very unhappy with this. I should end up losing this game. Playing Fisher and Chips, which is an awesome username, by the way. Hats off to you, Mr. Fisher and Chips. Okay, that's interesting. He brings the queen in. I'm going to go ahead and play g3. Attack the queen. And see where he wants to go with her. Playing quickly. I mean, at this point, a very practical aspect of this game, it is a rapid game, is that I have a time advantage. Now, it's a 15-minute with a 10-second increment time control, so very likely time will be a huge factor. It's enough of an increment that you should pretty much always be able to win on the board if you're winning. But if certainly, my opponent is an underdog, he probably has been pretty surprised with my bad piece sacrifice, which again, we're going to back up and review. So let's buckle up and be excited about the current position and see if I can make a comeback. Obviously, you sack a piece in a game like this partly because of time. So if I do end up getting a blunder in return because of his time pressure, I will not feel guilty about it. It's part of the game. So let's see if we can put pressure on our opponent and come up with something here. So one idea is to move my knight from d2 to e4, which I'm going to do quickly because I think he was going to play bishop g4 anyway. Like if I played rook e2, he played bishop g4, pin the knight, and just trade. I want to keep this knight on the board because the more minor pieces you have on the board, the better chances you have to mix it up and to potentially catch your opponent in a blunder. So that's what I'm doing here. I might play knight e4, and when the queen moves, try to relocate the knight to... I would love to find a goal square. That's the problem, is I really don't see a lot of ways to improve the position. But at least now that I'm preventing the trade, maybe I can play rook e3, double rooks, and still look for some pressure. I kind of half expected this move, but it's okay, because it's just an attack. Doesn't really do too much after that. And again, as long as I play quickly here, keeping pressure on my opponent, I might have a chance. So let's see here. Am I threatening f4 to kick the knight back? Possibly. But you don't want to play a lot of forcing moves when you're in a losing position like this. You kind of want to keep it messy and flexible because there's a better chance your opponent might go wrong. As soon as you start playing obvious forcing moves, well, usually the easiest responses are obvious forcing responses. And if you're down this much material, the chances of you having enough, when your opponent is playing forcing moves, probably not so much. You want to kind of keep it flexible. The keys to making a comeback. We should do a video series on Chess.com, right? About the keys to making a comeback. Maybe. We'll think about it. All right, so I put the knight on e4 now after rook g6. Maybe I can get d6. I would love to somehow have a tactic here on the knight. I'd also love to have f4. My g3 pawn is guarded, and after f4 he has to move his knight. You would think that there might be something. It looks like, I feel like there's some potential for some trickiness, some tactics. So let's see, do we kick him back with f4, knight f7, queen f3? He'll play queen to g4. I don't know. I'm going to go for it because I think I smell a little bit of blood in the sense that my opponent's down on time, and I think if I can maybe be the aggressor for a minute. I don't want to go back to playing forcing moves because, again, that's the thing a lot of people do when their opponent's under time pressure. They make forcing moves and then get surprised that their opponent's able to play the most obvious forcing move in return and maintain the time. The best thing to do is to play moves that you just keep trying to outplay your opponent if you're in a better position, and if you're losing, you want to keep it as murky as possible. But in this case, I want to open up tactics. So let's see. See, he plays queen h3, but I think he thought he was going to win g3, and he's not, because my knight is on it, and my queen is on it. So we're okay with this, right? I thought he might go for this, actually, when I first played f4. I was looking at knight f7, queen f3, queen g4. I move the queen back. Maybe I can play knight f2 with an attack on the queen and get a piece back. Just one piece with the power of the d-pawn. Might have been a chance. But now he may be getting himself in trouble. And admittedly, I say trouble loosely because I'm still down a lot. And I'm under no illusion that probably still going to be really tough for me to win this game. That's the truth. All right, I'm gonna take the bait and take that discovered check. Oh wait, that was a bad idea. That was a very bad idea? How bad? Bad. Bad. I thought he could have played bishop f6. I don't think he saw that. Now I can give check, and when he takes, I take. Rook takes. I guard the e3 pawn. You know, something like rook d3. He'll play f4. But at least he's not winning on the spot, right? So we got to go for this. He's going to take, rook takes, and then we got to guard the pawn. Do we want to guard with the d or the e rook? I guess the D rook makes the most sense, because if I guard with the E rook, he can play F4. And if he plays F4, I have to move the rook with tempo, right? So let's play rook D3. And if he plays F4, I think my move is going to be either E7 or queen to F6. Queen to F6, he takes G3 with check. And after I take, he takes with the queen. He'll have at least a draw there. So probably not ideal. E7 would be a move, but E7 wouldn't be great either. Yeah, so he plays there. Very smart by him. Very smart indeed. Yeah, still the chances of me making a comeback here are not looking very good. They are not looking very good. If I play rook up, he plays F4. Rook E3, he plays F4. Rook F3, he takes. Queen takes, we get a big trade, and I think he just stops my passed pawns. And I'm likely just losing. So I have to come up with a swindle here or bust. A swindle here or bust. That's what happens when you are just down 2 pieces for nil. Very frustrating. I'd love to find a way to unpin the pawn and take away the check like king f2, but then he plays queen here check. And if I run up, he takes g3. And if I go back, he takes g3 anyway. I take, he takes with the rook. And I don't see any way out. Right? Very difficult to see a way out. I don't think I can save this game. I really don't think I have a chance to save this game. Is there any last swindle that I might be missing? I can play e7. He takes g3, takes, rook takes, king up. He gives check and mate. It's just not going to be enough. So I have to come up with something else. Something else that I do not see. I don't know. I'm going to go here. And assuming he's going to play f4, I'm going to have big problems. Ooh, hold a tick. He plays h4. I honestly don't think that was as good, but maybe it's just as winning for him. You know? Maybe. Maybe he's like, I'm winning anyway. Don't worry about it, buddy. Maybe he's right. If king up, rook takes, we get a big trade of everything. At least I have a chance there, maybe. If he checks, I can run away for a moment. I can also roll the dice and play queen f6, you know. If he takes with check, and then I just take a draw. You know, and maybe I'll have a draw there. That looks like the best chance, honestly. Maybe he'll settle for a draw and let me and bail me out. Maybe he will settle for a draw and bail me out. Thinking that there probably is a way to have a forced series of checks and he should be able to win up the piece, but it's not so simple with my passed pawns and his king being open. So my best practical chance. F4 was much better because it prevented ideas like this. Then he would just take my rook. But now he's now he gives me one final shot to take and hope I'm not getting mated. I guess I'm just going to go to h1, and if he wants to check forever, I check forever. If he plays h3, though, I take with check. I don't think he can escape the checks there, so he either takes a draw, or he finds some way to stop my checks, like queen back. Okay, he may be just settling on a draw here. You know, I don't know. Offer him a draw. And My guess is he's going to want to take it, probably with his time. And so, tough start for me to drop a draw to a low-rated opponent like this. Yeah, he took it. But okay, I mean, I held on. I had a bad piece sacrifice. So let's back up again and do what we were trying to do before and talk about this before our next game starts. So, so this whole sack is sort of based on the idea that he can't castle, and I'm supposed to be able to get like knight h4 in, but I don't remember the theory, and so I'm not sure if knight to g3 is the right approach to it. Either that or here the key is making a better move, something like knight h4 first. And then if they castle... No, but it doesn't seem right. And I want to say, I feel like I should already be castled in the position where you play there, which is why I played here, and then knight f5, and then castled. Okay, is knight h4 the move here? And if he castles long, I can't take the piece, right? Because of rook e8. That's the problem. So I castled to prevent him from castling, but after knight f8, there has to be something critical here. Here it must be knight f4, knight h4. I feel like if knight h4, now that the bishop is protected, he's castling long, right? So I played rook e1, but then he played knight g6, and I couldn't remember the line. I thought, okay, well now I'm dead, right? So I'm going to have to check up on the theory. I played h4, he plays h5. I mean, I took here with check and just tried to keep it going because I was just down a piece with no clear way to proceed from my perspective. So I gave up a second piece for the attack and managed to keep enough going to keep the threats. And so that was a problem. I don't know exactly what the theory is besides possibly knight g3 immediately here. Oh, that seems right. That seems right. Queen e2 might have been the mistake, because after knight g3, knight d7, knight f5, you're winning the bishop here, and if they take, now you just play knight h4. Something like this. And if they do the same thing, and you get to take f5, and then they play here, I don't know, something like this maybe works differently now. Although it still seems really strange. I need to check up on the theory. I've won with this line before. I beat this guy, Victor Pupils, this guy who, I think from Reno, in a USCF tournament. I think you can actually find the game in the database, but I don't remember the line. So there you go. But hopefully we can learn something from my practical advice on how I tried to keep the position in full attention. But the truth is my opponent just misplayed the win, which everyone can say, you know, how did he do that? But it happens, right? We've all done it. So the next round's going to start in just a moment. Buckle up, and this awesomeness is this awesome video is going to continue. So hold on. Hey everyone, we're back with round 2. Clearly, I'm probably the highest rated player with a draw because I've dropped to play a 0-point player. That's what happens when you have a big upset the first round. So hopefully we will turn things around here. Maybe I won't sacrifice a piece in the opening when I don't quite remember the theory. From a positional perspective, you know, white can maintain a small edge by not playing this knight g3, knight f5 plan, you know, in this last game. Just castles, longer castles. And so if you're just joining us, you can back up and see the game I'm talking about. But we're going to continue here with an open Sicilian, play knight f6. Maybe I'll play a dragon. Maybe I'll play a knight orf. Who knows? We'll see what mood strikes when the moment comes. From a perspective that it's a tournament game, this is a USCF tournament game. I want to play a knight orf that's more solid, part of my repertoire. But from the perspective that it's a rapid game on Chess.com, makes me want to play a dragon and go for the excitement. But I'm going to play a knight orf and try to bring myself. I'm going to zen this moment. Zen, Why is it that when people say Zen, they do that? I don't know. And try to take a more solid approach this time. Yeah, frustrating. Frustrating to give up that draw. I am. Whether it's a game online or not, it's still an important game, and I'm frustrated that I didn't remember the line, and I still don't. I have to think about the theory. So he plays f3, which means maybe he's preparing for a English attack kind of thing with g4. There's a couple options, of course, for me to play both e5 or e6. I'll play e5, play the more challenging, more direct approach rather than e6, maintaining sort of the Scheveningen structure that you get in a lot of different Sicilians. My opponent wished me good luck, and I should wish him good luck to you. And good luck to you, sir. That's literally what I typed. And good luck to you, sir. I wonder if he imagined me saying it in that voice. Oh, man. Danny just said, and good luck to you, sir. Seems like we're bordering on the, like at any moment we could slip into a Sean Connery accent. At any moment. Right? Fortnite. Bond. James Bond. All right, so bishop e6. The main point is black wants to accelerate queenside development to get the queenside attack going before white does the same on the king side. But in a scenario like this, in a scenario such as this, with my bishop d3, which is not necessarily the best move theoretically. I mean, g4 makes more sense. Queen to d2 makes more sense, especially if you're going to castle long. The bishop on d3 is not ideally placed. But one move that comes to mind immediately is, can I just strike with d5? Normally you can't get d5 so quickly, but if I play d5, takes, knight takes, bishop takes, it feels like an equalizing opportunity in the center that I don't normally get in this line. And I think I should be on my toes enough to grab that positional bull by the positional horns and positional him into a strategically more advantageous position. Because I live in a van down by the river. Yeah, no, this feels good. Feels real good. All right, just trying to keep the live tweets going. Trying to keep the live tweets going. I'm going to take with the bishop. At first I was going to take with the queen, but if he plays bishop e4 and I take and he takes with the rook, I think I actually have an awkward situation on the queen side. Knight to c6 might even be met by takes, and then I have the bad c-pawn positionally. He might be able to gain access to the dark squares in a situation like that. Bishop takes feels right. No reason to trade queens when I've equalized in the center so quickly. And now that I've opened it, he'll probably settle on castling short, to be honest, and may not really be looking for attacking chances anymore, but he's just, black is just better. I mean, I have a pawn in the center, he doesn't, and if you ask Nimzovich, that was a big deal, right? Hashtag my system, hashtag get some. And I have a good center as well. So now I'm going to develop this knight because it feels right. It's lady's knight. Oh, what a knight. And the party continues here on Chess.com. So maybe we'll break these up into multiple recordings. I'm saying this now because I don't know. Maybe we'll break this up into multiple recordings. So each game is a different video. Or maybe we'll just keep it all as one big, long, happy party. Who knows? He plays knight to c5, which attacks the b7 pawn. But it also feels a little loose, a little flimsy. If I cackle, and he takes on b7, I move the queen. I don't see anything concrete after he brings the knight back. But one move I'm considering is queen to b6. You bet your button. You bet your Benjamin button. I'm thinking about queen to b6 because the knight is pinned. The knight is pinned to that bishop on e3, and there's no way to move that knight with a powerful check to win the queen. So how's he guarding that knight? This question, yeah, isn't it? right? It's like quite the conundrum. Right here. Nice. And taking the knight. Attacking the knight, pinning to the bishop. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Seriously, though, I like it. And if he plays b4, I think I'll just take with the knight. Why not, right? Will redeem myself potentially after giving up that terrible draw to Fisher and Chips. Again, like I said, great username. He deserves the draw just for the username, let's be honest. Not making excuses. It was a bad PSAC in a line that I... It's really frustrating to know that you used to be a chess player, and now you do your best to maintain weak international master strength. So, and I just, I've won games in that line, and I know that White is doing okay there, but I shouldn't, from a practical perspective, sacrifice a piece if I don't remember the line. That's just bad news bears, right? The version with Billy Bob Thornton, which is no good. Everyone knows that. Boomtown. Take that knight. Take that knight next move. 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 In case you wonder why I keep looking over there, it's because I got the NCAA March Madness tournament. The madness. Hashtag the madness. My bracket's not doing well. Don't worry. It's just at this point it's more of like a compulsive addiction to watch the games. I set up one of my computer monitors to be hooked up to the CBS stream. So working, TV, laptop. It's like, how many computers do you have, Danny? I don't know. Enough. Does that help you? Yeah, it looks like he's in trouble here. He just told me very nice, which is something you can't really say in over-the-board USCF tournaments, which is going to be fun. If the USCF representatives are watching this, it's one of the things that's fun about this whole online experience is that it is different. And you do get to say things that you wouldn't normally get to say in a tournament. And even as a tournament director, I'm officially the tournament director of this, and I am a real tournament director. There really isn't much you can do besides oversee it, but you can't monitor every chat and every second, and all you can do is monitor if there's abuse. We can handle it, But if people say good luck and very nice, there's nothing you can do about it. All right. So I'm up a piece, and this should be pretty straightforward victory. I'll trade and simplify. Get castled next. We will get cackled. And when he plays a rook to c1, we'll put the queen on d4, where she's nice and cozy in front of that isolated d-pawn. Next, I'm going to bring my rooks to d8 and c8, play b5, and use my 2-on-1 advantage, and ride this puppy home. Ride this puppy dog home. Okay, maybe he wants rook to b1 now. Rook to b4. So we're going to say no soup for you. And we're going to offer the trade. Another thing you can't do over the board is pre-move. When are we going to start the ability to pre-move over the board? Someone's going to invent this insane technology where your eye can register and okay, if they do that, I do this. That'd be sweet. Oops. That's the wifey. I'm spending a Friday night here with all of you. And it is Friday night at about 6 p.m. on the West Coast, about 9 p.m. on the East Coast when I'm recording this. So that means the wifey, I just told her, hey, going to be home late. Got to be the TD of the first USCF tournament. While I'm here, I might as well record some videos. And she's like, whatever. You're a workaholic. We'll see if you have a wife to come home to. That's not actually what she said. She's very supportive. But it is a little, it'll be tiring. So, okay. We have the C file, and we're going to simplify this position out. That's what we're going to do. He plays rook c2. We can trade. I like the idea of trading and then playing bishop to c6. Blocking the c file and preparing to double on the d file. Going after that pawn. See, if you can get all your opponent's pieces buried defending a little guy, then typically your pieces are by definition more active and the ones applying the pressure. So I could play rook d8, rook d1, and he can't save the pawn anyway if I really want to go out of my way to get it. But that's not even something I really care about doing. I think I'm just going to play rook to d8 and Although, wait, if he plays rook to d1 after rook d8, I have bishop a4, skewering the queen and rook. So we'll see if he anticipates that or not. You know, like if he plays h3 thinking, oh, I'll just meet rook d8 with rook d1, I defend the pawn, well, then he'd be missing bishop a4. But once I get the rook to d8 and he defends it, rather than going after the pawn, I'll probably take the time to free my back rank to make sure nothing bad happens, and then I'll focus on converting on the queen's side. That's what I'm going to do. Telling you what I'm going to do, all right? Hopefully that's a good thing. Not so simple for him here. I'm not sure if I can even win this tournament 3.5. There's a lot of players here. For our first USCF tournament, I mean, on Chess.com, we had like over 50 players, I think. So that's pretty good. And I don't know that 3.5 out of 4 would be enough. Check out the standings real quick. Pretty good amount of players here. I guess closer to like 35 players, not quite 50. So maybe there's a chance to make the old comeback. Davidson in Iowa. Locked in a pretty close game right now. All right. Well, he's going to take his time, which is totally fine. And we're going to focus on converting this advantage. I'm not quite sure what else to tell you. Honestly. Not sure what else to talk about. Well, he played h3, so let's see if I was all Nostradamus on this thing. And Nostradamus? No, Notre Dame? I don't know. But if that pawn's not going anywhere for a while, let's just go grab a Snickers, right? Let's go grab a Snickers and free this back rank. What the hey? And make sure there's no tacticos, which there wasn't anyway, but just freeing the back rank for freeing the back rank's sake. All right. I'd love to do a big trade here and then take f3 if that was winning. Queen takes e5, bishop takes f3, g takes f3, queen takes f3, king to g1. But I don't see any immediate follow-up there. So, okay. Not a lot of options for my opponent, though. So we'll just make a move and go after that d3 pawn. Hopefully we'll be good enough. Okay, now all of a sudden he says he's willing to trade queens. Well, I am also willing to trade queens if you'd like. That would be just fine by me if you never leave. And we can lay like this forever. Let's play queen to d2, which will then force the queen trade. Yeah. Because now his queen is also tied to the defense of the rook. So trading queens is no longer an option. Right? As I tell my kids, a candidate is an option, but a mandate is something you have to do. You know, run that house pretty tight ship, right? Like a dictatorship. You know, you have the option, but now you have the obligation. When I say go brush your teeth, they're like, I don't want to. I'm like, well, I didn't give you the option. I said go brush your teeth, right? You got to brush your teeth, all right? That's not, you know, you're explaining to kids about what's going on, taking care of their mouth. You only get one mouth. Anyway. So this will be a pretty quick win. I'll try to do it as quickly as possible so that we can move on to something slightly more constructive here. Standings looks like there's one guy 2 out of 2 right now, but many others still playing. So there's definitely going to be a lot of others with 2 out of 2. Hopefully I can win a couple games and get back into a position where I might have a fighter's chance for first. I'm all about winning first if I enter a tournament. Some people are all about the base. I'm all about winning first. Let's keep that rook out of our business. Now I'm actually going to play e4, which will, after takes, will open up the diagonal for the rook and bishop to meet over there, while the bishop is still taking care of defensive purposes. Well, he just said, good game, and he congratulated me, and thanks for all the works on the site. Okay. Well, too bad. A tough piece hang for my opponent. Not a great opening start. A fine start here, but when you start with this structure, you have a very specific purpose to support g4, which will accelerate your plans on the king side, and it actually has some dual purposes, not just an attack. But in a lot of cases, if the threat of g5 is there, that also prevents d5, as I got in the game, because if the knight is removed, you don't have that protection. So, like, main line would be more something like g4 immediately here is an option. Bishop e3 is an option, followed by just queen e2 and castles would also be another way to deal with it. In fact, after bishop e3, bishop e6, queen to d2 is more normal, because as long as black still has the option of d5, you don't really want to play g4. After bishop e6. If you play g4, I think d5 is a move there. Yeah. Because if takes, there's just like open check, and if g4, d5, g5, you have d4, takes, bishop takes, and you win your piece back. So, so that would have been more normal. But again, as soon as he played bishop d3, not only did I sort of smell a rat and seize this opportunity, but even if I hadn't, the bishop is just misplaced here. So that's not the right idea for these kind of attacks, and I appreciate you guys watching. Game 3, USCF Chess on Chess.com. Coming your way in just a minute here. Don't go anywhere. Don't you change that channel. And so we wait. I think the last games are just finishing. Yep, indeed. Here we go. Clock starts in 10 seconds. And we are back for round 3. Hashtag USCF on Chess.com. I'm serious. That is the hashtag, so you can find the tweets. I'm going to go ahead and tweet it to everybody right now that the next game has indeed begun. My opponent plays knight to c3, huh? Using my own Verisov against me. My own favorite Verisov. Game 3 has begun. Said in voice of Shao Kahn from Mortal Kombat. They get it. Now he plays e3. That's a little strange. I would believe that to be a little bit strange. Normally the point is the bishop to g5 or bishop to f4, and then you even have e4 in a lot of positions, so a Verisov can become something else down the road. But with e3, he's just sort of playing a little bit of a passive opening, really. And if we get some sort of Tory, then the knight on c3 will not be ideally placed. But maybe his intention is to get something with f4. I don't know. A little bit weird. He's playing quickly now, so for someone to be playing kind of bad openings, but be playing relatively quickly, maybe he has an idea in mind or knows what he's doing. You never know. You never know, I always say. I play c5. Of course, I'm threatening to play c4, so that would trap the bishop. The main thing is that if he's going to go for some sort of closed center structure where he's controlling all the dark squares, it always makes sense to challenge that grip with moves like c5 and e5. It's also a reason why you fianchetto the bishop against a lot of Tories and Londons, because it's a very solid structure, hard to take out, so to speak. Without a traditional like Yugoslav kind of pawn storm. So now I'm was thinking I was just going to play knight to d7 and just try to get that pawn back. It feels good, because if he plays b4, that opens up this diagonal, which, I don't know, makes me think that I would maybe have something there tactically. And even if not, b4 can be met by a5. And a3 is not possible because I'll take, and the pawn is pinned to the rook. That is a pin right there. Yeah, so he says, I know. I'm going to go ahead and take c5. Then I'm going to go ahead and mute my phone. So we have no distractions. He plays bishop e2, which makes sense. He wants to open up the threat of d5, which prevents me from playing e5, because he'll take it, at least as far as I can see. And if I have to settle on e6, it's not my favorite. Not my fave. Not my BFMF. Best friend move forever. You're welcome. I just gave you something to use. Like, dude, that move is totally my BFMF. They're like, what? My best friend move forever? Duh. Don't you know? Serious. It's like, yeah. You know? Jimmy Fallon. But seriously, BFMF, right? Dude, you would like, all the moves you play, they're like my BFMF moves. Dude. I know. Totally. I get it. All right, now I want to play b6 because e4 is not really a threat, and I can play bishop a6 or bishop to b7, providing more support for d5 and eventually preparing e5. So that's the idea right now. If b6, bishop a6 with tempo, and then I can get the rook to c8, it feels like I should have a pretty easy time improving my position, and it's one of the positional no-nos or reasons behind you don't want to have the knight in front of a c-pawn in a structure where the d-pawn's led the way. In king-pawn positions, it's different, but here, what you really want is this pawn to be able to go to c4, or you want to be able to play c3 and have the knight on d2 so you can prepare c4 and e4. So, white's structure is leaving something to be desired, so to speak, and this bishop, because of the dysfunction here, is also not greatly placed. He'd like to play b3, but there's tactics, of course, to consider. He'd also like to play b4, but there's also tactics to consider, including maybe knight e4. Takes. I can also play this knight to e4. Me like that even more. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like it. Because I think I'm going to win the exchange. I think he's going to have to take on e4, and I'm going to be able to take the rook. Not right away. If knight takes e4, I don't want to take the rook, because maybe he takes c5, and it's a little messy. Although that's maybe even an option. But I think if he takes e4, I can just take with the knight. And then if he takes with the bishop, and then I take a1, it kind of avoids some of the complications. Because if he takes and I take with the knight, I don't know that he can really avoid losing the exchange at that point. My knight on e4 is threatening things like knight to c3, right? I mean, if takes, knight takes, rook b1, I have knight c3 anyway. So it would seem that that I'll be getting exactly what I need. Moving the other knight to e4 might have almost been just as good, but I think that this was the more forcing manner, the more forcing way to achieve the same goal. And if you recognize that that goal is a good one, then always go for the more forcing one to get there. So, pro tip. Hashtag pro tip. All right, so he's thinking right now. He's thinking, and we are okay with that. What tactics can we anticipate from our opponent? I'm not sure, but as far as the standings go, I'm not really going to have a chance to play for first in the last round. That's the truth, unfortunately. And that's because there's just too many twos, and there's too many people in the tournament. I can't catch up after that horrible first-round draw I had. I'll bring up a little bit of a screenshot of the standings here in just a second. The standings here on Chess.com, so you can see the tournament that we are involved in. and follow the standings whenever we need to bring it up. So you see there's just a lot of 2s here left. And I know it's kind of unprofessional for me to be worried about what's going on with the 2s when I still have a game to play, but kind of in a winning position at the moment, and I think it should be okay. So even if I win, I have 2.5. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's going to be at least 3 or 4 3s. So I'm not going to get a chance to play any one of them. All right, so I can take c5 and then take on e1. Next move, because the rooks are still sort of skewered. Or I can just take e1 right away. I think I'll just take e1 right away. He will recapture my bishop with his queen, and then I'll take c5, and I will be up the exchange with more to go. We are going to be doing this again. Wednesday, as I said, if you're just tuning into this video or skipping ahead, is the Blitz USCF. So there are 2 different types of events taking place on Chess.com each week for to affect the USCF Online Quick and Blitz ratings, which is really cool that they launched that. Wednesday nights we will have a Blitz tournament, and Friday night, as you see here, we will have a Rapid event taking place, and should be a lot of fun to keep these things going. I think we'll get more and more strong players. No prizes currently, other than Chess.com is donating a shirt to the winner of each of the first 10 events, just kind of in honor of the celebration. But bigger picture, we hope to work out that there's some prizes, maybe some sort of like Grand Prix event with the USCF, something that can encourage participation. So I think we will do that at some point. But right now, you're playing for your rating, just like you play in a USCF tournament for your rating. So that's it. He'll probably play rook to b1 here, and I'm going to play rook to b8. Again, when you're up this much material, kind of simplifying is the number one goal. I think that if I can trade rooks on the b file, that should ease my access to winning the a2 pawn and an easy conversion here if I get some other kind of material advantage on the queen side, in addition to being up the exchange. So where did this kind of go wrong for my opponent? I think, to start out, knight to c3 is just not the best positional move unless you're going to play for a Verosov, bishop f4, bishop g5. These are the things you need to do. But to play sort of a passive queen's gambit with the knight on c3, this is just dysfunctional in the sense that it doesn't not going to lead to your best development for sure. So, and that led to a little bit of a worse middle game, and then tactics that occurred kind of out of necessity though for White, because White was so stuck in this position with the bad development that he ended up kind of justifying playing b4, which is a blunder. The point is that little mistakes lead to big mistakes. So an amateur can look at this game and convince themselves, oh, you know what, I only lost to this guy because I played b4 here, and that was a blunder to knight e4, which I missed. Right? Okay, b4 was the critical blunder in the game. But if you really want to improve, you have to be willing to look at your games from the perspective that mistakes that were out of misunderstanding the correct strategical plan, misunderstanding the pawn structure, and really just misunderstanding what you needed to do are just as important, and often the more critical ones to fix from the perspective that they're more likely for you to get again. You may not get that exact position again with a chance to blunder b4, but you'll likely get positions again where you have a chance to play a bad development scheme in a queen's pawn game, and you can learn really kind of where you first started to misplace your pieces. So I've always pushed that with my students. Little mistakes lead to big mistakes, and I hope that you will too. Welcome, everybody. Chess.com. Brought to you by the Home Depot. You can do it. We can help. The Home Depot. Let's build something together. Wait, that's Lowe's. Darn it. Always confusing those two. By the way, if he had gone to Captureville here, I would have just taken with the rook as the back rank, so that would have been fun. Now I will just play d3 for sure. That is a pass pawn, and I helped. Let's back up again. So again, that's what I was saying. So he was already in a tough position here, and that's why he blundered b4, because he didn't like his development. Bishop d2 would have been ugly. And so blunders are made in positions where you were already worse, 90% of the time. Blunders made in winning positions happen much more rarely and usually represent a different issue, lack of focus, things like that. But yeah, a blunder in a winning position is not going to happen very often. But blundering when you were already worse, that's where most of them are made. And so you really want to take a note that if you ever make blunders in your games, be honest with yourself about where things really went wrong. Okay, well now I can give check, or I can just double first. I'll give check first. Then I'll attack again. Actually, maybe just moving the rook was better first. Although this should still be pretty easily winning. If he plays rook c1, I could just take d3. If he plays king there, I can still take d3, and then I'm just going to win the queen. Sorry about that. Talking to my boss, the owner and founder of Chess.com, Eric, about some product issues, redesign. That's right. Welcome. Welcome into the world that is Chess.com. I was not going to miss checkmate from my opponent when he got the king to f6. Not going to happen. So now I'm going to drive this h-pawn until he resigns. So there you go. And he resigned, just as we talked about it. So. Well, that was good. And again, I just think that the main lesson here was that, you know, a bad development scheme started by my opponent, which led to this this awkward situation. I mean, he had to take here, which is a concession, really, if you think about it. You don't want to do that. But, you know, now I get 2 pawns in the center, which is normally something white wants to get in a queen's pawn game, right? And so I wasn't able to advance the center, but it's still a positional difficulty for your opponent when you have 2 pawns in the center and they only have 1. That represents less squares for your minor pieces. And after b4, I was able to get this tactic. And again, it's just bad positions lead to blunders. And be honest with yourself if you want to really improve. And I think I showed pretty decent technique after winning the exchange and took care of business. And we will have one more game. Don't go anywhere, because right now, the round 4 game is about to start. I have a chance to complete my comeback and salvage what could be considered a decent first USCF tournament after that horrible draw. God, that was a bad draw. Anyway, let's do this round 4. Okay, and I think the last game has just ended here. Been patiently waiting. That's what happens when you finish a tournament game early. You got to wait for the others to finish. So here we go. Final round of the event. Let's do this. We'll play e4. A Caro-Kann indeed. We will play d4 and playing Zigwurst here. Not sure I've ever played Zigwurst before. He has 2.5 out of 3, just like myself. As far as the standings go, we can go ahead and bring that up so that everyone can see what they are hitting in the last round. So I was unable to catch up, really. 2 3-0s, unfortunately, with the bad first draw. But seeing what a great turnout we've had, we may actually increase the rounds to 5, and that's not just a selfish ploy so that Danny would have a chance for first in the future. Only a little bit. But no, it would just make more sense, I think. I think everyone's having a good time. So let's go ahead and get back to the game here. He plays knight f6. We are in a traditional Panov Botvinnik, which means we're probably going to reach an isolated queen-pawn structure as far as the center goes. But black has many lines here. e6, knight c6, g6, they're all possible. Play knight f3, and if he plays bishop to b4, we will be in one of the most main lines of the main lines. And bishop to b4 is probably the best line here. Knight to c6 is also possible. Not as commonly played after e6, more commonly played here. And the reason is that there are a lot of lines where this bishop actually develops outside the structure. So, but knight c6 is totally possible here. And I was trying to remember what a couple moves might have been, but it's irrelevant because he didn't go for it. But so here the main line is you take on d5, and after knight takes, you have two moves. Queen to c2, which is a little bit sharper, kind of the older line, and then bishop to d2, which is going to reach more of a traditional, just isolated queen-pawn structure middle game. But I think white has a little bit of an edge, and I'm comfortable in those positions, so I'll play it. And if your opponent doesn't know the theory, which can run like 15 to 20 moves deep, you might have a chance at an even better position out of the start. So now you play bishop to d3, and your plan is to get castled and play queen to e2 with a potential swing-a-rooski over here to the king side. In a lot of positions, black is going to play bishop back to e7, knight back to f6, sort of retreats the minor pieces in order to open up the pressure against d4 and avoid some tactics. But there's a lot of famous games in these lines if you want to check them out. Kamsky-Karpov from their World Championship match, a wonderfully and beautifully game played by Karpov as black. Really grinding down white and showing how you're supposed to outplay somebody when you're playing against an isolated queen pawn. So let's hope that Zigwurst doesn't play as well as Karpov today. And then we might have a chance. So, in the meantime, we wait now for him to remember his theories. He castles, which is normal. I'm going to castle. And now, because there's no check on d2, there's potential tactics with moving this knight on the bishop, and so a lot of times now will be the time where they back up. They back up. He backs up the knight to f6 first. I don't think that's the ideal approach, theoretically. It immediately opens up threats against d4, so to speak, but if I play queen to e2, knight takes, queen takes, I can move this knight with discovery on the queen. He'd have to play something like queen to c5 to protect it. I can play rook to c1. He plays queen to e7. I have rook to c7. That just looks like a mess for him, right? So he's not actually threatening to take. That's the point. So I think I just play queen to e2 anyway. And if he voluntarily plays bishop e7, which would just be a transposition of the main line, I play knight e4. That's the point. And in that line after knight e4, if takes, queen takes, the point is you have bishop to c3, opening up a skewer. And after they play queen back to d8, you play rook to d1, and white has a ton of compensation. All right, well, my opponent plays knight takes d4, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the blunder of a piece. And now I'm going to play knight to b5, and how is he going to defend this bishop? Oh, he can come over to h4 maybe? No, but I have g3. No, he doesn't have anything good. I think if queen h4, I have g3, right? If he plays queen g4, I just trade queens and then take. And if queen h4, g3, queen h3 takes b4, knight g4, I have f3, guarded mate. So I think he's just blundering a piece, and I think we're going to have a quick last game, which again makes me feel even worse about just giving up that draw in the first round, unnecessarily sacrificing a piece. So, yeah. Or I'm even dumber than I thought, which is totally possible. What? Missing knight takes v2? He could really take that pawn there? Does that mean I was supposed to play what, like rook to d1? I guess that's kind of a typical way to guard the pawn indirectly. Oh no, I had to play, I played queen e2. So here, you know. But this looks bad for me. Unless there's just some sort of like tons of compensation. Like because the queen is just all over the map. You know, go attack her. And then bring the other rook over. Certainly, it's hard to believe that I have anything concrete though, so certainly I wouldn't. Certainly I did not play the best, but definitely not over though. I'm just a little curious again where I messed up my own theory. So now I'm going to bring the rook over here, I think. so that I can bring the rook down to c7. In some of these positions, plays there, makes sense with it all. So I start to look at tactics on h7 potentially. Bishop to e4 also makes sense. How's he going to guard that knight? I have some time here, so I might want to take it. If queen to e4 and f5, I can play even just like queen up to e5. And that's going to be a tough position to say that black is better because the e6 pawn is so bad, my rooks are so active. If bishop d7, we have moves like knight to c7. Queen e4, my thought is that he would just play g6 though, and then what? I don't have any tactics on the knight in those scenarios. Is there an obvious improvement to my queen after moving to e4 that I wouldn't have otherwise? I don't think so. So bishop e4 just feels more natural, and if he moves the knight there, I can actually possibly relocate the bishop to this diagonal, which even though it takes away some of the chances of like a mate idea, it might actually be the more concrete way to play the position with the bishop on b7. It would seem that not that easy for him to untangle there. So let's see. Let's see. Of course, if bishop d7, I'm just taking on d5 and winning a piece. We would love if they were to blunder. Always love if they blunder. When you win a lot of chess games and lose a lot of chess games, you start to lose your shame if you win by a blunder. Because a win's a win. As my boy Vin Diesel said, winning's winning. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winnings. Hashtag Fast and Furious 7 coming out. I think it's just called Furious now. Talk about it's like, to even start to describe that series is just out of control. But Vin Diesel did say something important. Doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. In the first Fast and Furious. You know. And if you have a lot more Vin Diesel references for me that I'm forgetting, and you're going to start naming all the other great lines he had in the other movies, then you can go join the rest of the Vin Diesel fans in the coloring room. You know, where everyone gets together and colors and talks about Vin Diesel. Go ahead and do that. So, let's, yeah, this is a tough position, right? It's one of those weird things where not that easy for black to untangle when every one of your pieces is positioned on an open file, and so, but still, you would think with accurate play, I mean, computers would play these positions easily, right? Because they would play the one move that's not losing anything tactically, and then unless a human keeps putting pressure, then eventually they untangle, so. I wonder what happens if he plays a6. If he plays a6 and I take d5, and then he takes b5, I mean, certainly I can win my one pawn back. But I wouldn't even be happy about that, though. I almost don't want him to try to give a pawn back, which is good practical advice if we're talking instruction here, that, you know, one of the things you have to remember when your opponent has a lot of compensation, if you have two pawns, is feel free to give a pawn back if it limits some of the compensation. One of the worst things you can do is try to be too stubborn with the material when you have enough material to not be that stubborn. It just doesn't make sense. So, okay, queen out to g5. There's a lot of moves to consider here. Knight to d6. Bishop takes d5, because if queen takes, I have knight c7. If e takes, I have knight c7. He moves the rook to b8. And then what? And then I do not see anything. That's what. I can try to play something like queen to d3 or queen to c2. You know, and attack h7. And if he plays knight f6, just back up the bishop to this diagonal, and still white's position is applying a lot of pressure. Rook to c5 is also interesting. Oh, he can actually move the knight, maybe. Because if I take, he takes with check, and I move, and he gets his knight out. Although, if rook c5, knight f4, like queen to e3 might be pretty good. Yeah. But, I don't know, rook c5 feels awkward right now, not even anything concrete is threatened after that, you know. So what? Is there any reason to deflect the queen with h4 if queen takes? I don't see any good reason. If I saw a reason, I'd play it. You know, just give me a reason, just a little bit's enough. Just a second, we're not broken, just bent, and we can learn to love again. It's been written in the stars of our heart. And we're not broken, just bent, and we can learn to love again. Just give me a reason, just a little bit's enough. Just a second, we're not broken, just bent, and we can learn to love again. And the sky has been written in the scars on our hearts. And we're not broken, just bent, and we can learn to love again. I can't play a move in this position. I can learn to love again, but I can't seem to find a move to play. So that's irritating. I'd love to be able to do a rook lift, honestly. Slide a rook over here and play tickle on the king side, but I can't move my rook up. Can't move the rook to c3 because knight takes. Can't move the rook to b3 because he takes c1. I'm in a little bit of a pickle here. I need to find a way to win one of the pawns back so I'm not like in dire straits and yet keep some of the pressure. So, you know, I don't know, something like knight to d6 would be a way to do that potentially. If he just plays b6, I don't know. Although I keep kind of dismissing queen to d3, and maybe I shouldn't be. Or even queen to c2, you know, at least they have a threat. And then when he guards the h-pawn, maybe if my queen's guarding the rook, I can bring the rook up. But if queen c2, h6, rook up to b3, bishop d7, rook over to g3, he moves the queen, right? And then what? I still got to move my knight, and then he's going to come to the c-file. That doesn't seem like fun. Queen to d3 seems a little more, makes more sense to be on this, right? Queen d3, and if h6, if I take, knight c7, he moves, we take there, the bishop develops. We're not going to have any chance to win that. We're probably just losing, honestly. So this is tough. It's a tough position. Maybe I need to reconsider my dismissal of rook to c5. If rook to c5 and b6... then what? Doesn't seem like anything concrete exists there either. I'm gonna go with an intuitive move here without seeing anything super concrete that opening up both rooks is going to increase my tactical chances here, and I don't want to take a ton of time because it's also a rapid game, you know. If he plays b6, do I have queen c2? And if he plays h6, I can play knight takes, rook takes, and I sack everything on c8, and he gets mated like a little swindle, maybe. And if b6, queen c2, g6, there may be moves like queen to c6, hitting the rook. Rook to b8, take on d5. Now you can just take with the queen. I have nothing. plays b6, what do I have? I don't know. I don't know, Captain. The only thing I have to do is not panic. That sounded like the line of a movie, right? If there's one thing all of us can do, it's don't panic. And my opponent just blundered his queen in one move. Well, that's unfortunate for him. Because I really wanted to see if I was going to be able to get the compensation. I'm actually disappointed that he blundered. I know I said I wouldn't be, but I am. So before he blundered his queen in one move, and I'll let you all think about why that's a blunder in one move, but if he had played b6, what I was saying about not panicking is it's not very obvious what move he's going to play next, right? Like, all of them might have some tactical consequences. So, like, if I play, like, g3, you know, which maybe I could have played last move, and he plays bishop d7, and then I play h4 and attack the queen, he backs up. I mean, like, there's still some pressure and threats where I can win the pawn back, at least one where I can, like, fork h7 and d5, but I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not going to be better there, so I need to figure out theoretically what went wrong here. What went wrong? But okay, he just blundered his queen, and so it's unfortunate. But that is the truth. And that, my friend, is going to be the game. So yeah, we'll back up a little bit. We'll take a little bit of a look at this before we call in a night. But yeah, that was a little bit disappointing for him. Yeah, he just said, well, that stinks, right? GG. And I said, well, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I messed up in the opening. But, yeah, so he resigned. But again, so if he plays b6... See, I thought about the idea like this, right? If he plays h6, I have this awesome take, everything, and he's made it. So that would have been a cool little trick. But he'll play h6, or sorry, g6, and... But you know, now that he's done that, I can actually play a move like this, and there's maybe ideas of relocating the knight around, keeping some compensation going. I can also play queen to c6 first and gain this tempo on the rook, but I didn't see any way to take advantage of black's lack of development, unfortunately. You know, but what's funny about some of these positions is, like, if I take everything, activity is so important, and I play a move like this, like, I could probably hold a draw here. Having won one of the pawns back and just, like, putting him in a tough spot. But still not ideal. And so what really happened in the opening there? He played knight f6 first. Am I supposed to, I mean, I know bishop g5 is a move here. Pins the knight, and of course now he can't take on d4 because I take everything, and in the end I win. But if bishop g5, bishop back to e7, we've gone into, like, sort of a traditional pan-off. And maybe that's what I'm supposed to do against knight f6 early. That's probably, yeah, that just seems really straightforward. Yeah, just bishop to g5. Of course, you can't take everything, and after this, now you can even do lines like here, where you have, you know, traditional kind of way to play some of these QGDs. That must be why, see, the real theory here is not knight f6. The main line is bishop to e7. Excuse me. And then after queen to e2, threatening queen e4, they play knight f6. And now they're attacking this, but now you defend it with knight to e4, as I said. And the point is that if takes, if takes, bishop to c3. They don't want the double pawn, so they go back here. And then you play like rook to d1. The position is like really, really tough for them. Maybe there's even... Is there anything more straightforward? There might be, but no. I mean, this is like really much more. No, I think there's something more straightforward. I just don't remember what it is. Oh, just take here first and then play this, threatening to win the queen. And the point is, if they play this, you have this move, attacking, and this. So it's like a fork. Queen e4 is a fork of h7 in this. So that's the... I knew it loses by force. I just needed to remember the theory. So where I messed up was when he played knight f6 first, I sort of thought the compensation would be similar, that he couldn't really take the pawn, but I was wrong. I just missed queen takes b2. But bishop to g5, bishop back to e7. Now, they're not even threatening to take the pawn. You can play, solid center moves, and you have a typical isolated queen pawn where, black wants to simplify the position and win the pawn, and white has more active pieces. And bishop c2 is the other move I said is probably possible. But I think it's a good version of an IQP, and that's why knight f6 is not the best move. It's why they should play this, and then knight f6, and then after knight e4, of course, they don't take it. They play the main move, which is queen to b6, hitting the pawn. And now white plays a3, which is theory, because queen takes b2 gets trapped. And knight takes d4 runs into similar issues that we just saw. Black hasn't really done anything different. So then you see bishop to d7, and then this rook to c1, so you still have the chance to trap the queen. And this is theory. This is Karpov theory, and from the game, from the Kamsky-Karpov game. So anyway, this would have been the way things would have gone if I had not blundered after knight f6. Actually, after knight f6, no, they wouldn't have been gone if I had gone this way. But if he had played the main line, bishop e7. So anyway, but this was never simple for him. I know I messed up the opening bad here, but this isn't like a position that just plays itself. I mean, white has a ton of pressure here. There's a lot of threats. And I'm sure it's good for black. I'm sure that if he plays accurately, there's got to be a way to get back one of the pawns and then have some sort of 4-on-3. You think the most likely candidate to sacrifice, if you're looking at the structure, is probably the b7 pawn. In some position, if black gives back that pawn but equalizes in terms of activity, he's just going to be up a pawn. So I'm sure there's a way to do it, and unfortunately my opponent was not able to deal with all of the tactics from the pressure and walked into this blunder here. And this was all she wrote. All right, well, let's take a look at the standings before we go. As we leave you here, you see me on top of the standings right now with 3.5 out of 4, but that's only because what's going on in the other game between the two other title players, national masters in the event. Let's go ahead and take a peek at that, shall we? So I'm probably going to finish around third place, tied for third, something like that. If this game's a draw, then we'll all be big fat co-champions, right? It's a wild game. A wild game. White looks like he's just better with the bishop pair, but black's g5 is kind of critical. It's kind of holding off these squares here. I really like it. I don't know what I think about this position. I feel like white should still be better, but I don't think it's going to be that simple. As far as the other 2.5ers go, unless they draw, one of them will be tying me. So, well, I guess if Hazy loses, then he won't be tying. And as far as the other ones go here, unless they draw, or then they won't be tying. So probably I'll finish, like I said, around third place. If there's a bunch of draws, we'll all be tied for first. But did my best to make the best comeback I could, winning the final 3 games after that tough first round where you all joined in the middle of it. Promise it's not that I didn't want to show you the piece sack. I backed up and showed you all the bad stuff. I just had the idea to record it in the middle of it. I was like, let's do it. And I just, sort of set it up in the middle of it. But okay, this was fun. You're going to see this video. If you're watching this video, then you already know where you're watching it. If you are hearing me now somehow without actually watching the video, then I'll tell you you're on YouTube. Spoiler alert. Anyway. Thank you, everybody. I hope to see more USCF members joining Chess.com to play in these events, and we hope to see more Chess.com members joining the USCF. So thank you, and have a wonderful wonderful time on Chess.com. Peace out. Go ahead and like the video for me. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, do all that stuff, right? Because I love you. That's why you do it. You do it for love. So, bye, everybody.